Tyjae Spears, running back Tulane, 5'10", 201, 10-inch hands. He is 21 years old right now. He's going to be 22 in June. There are no 40-yard dash numbers or a 3-cone or anything like that.
He did do his pro day, though.
Did he?
Yeah, he ran a 4.47.
Oh, yeah, right. I have that right down right here, 4.47 at this pro day. I have it right here.
There you go.
I just didn't get to that yet.
That's right.
Broad jump, 125 inches, bench press 18 times, 39-inch vertical. So this guy has got some good explosion numbers. Last year in 14 games at Tulane, he had 229 yards rushing, 1,581 yards.
229 attempts.
1,581 yards rushing, 19 touchdowns, 22 receptions, 286 yards, and additional 2 touchdowns. Thank you for the assist. My brain knew something was wrong.
I could see it on your face. You're
I
like,
just
this
didn't even know what, like,
right.
words
21 total
were coming
touchdowns.
out of my mouth. Yep.
21 total touchdowns. So I tweeted out.
Also, big time Cotton Bowl game.
Yes.
That comeback over USC. Like, he was the MVP, by
Yes.
the way, too.
So
he got better as the year went along.
He did. He absolutely did. So I tweeted out a little teaser.
Tease me.
That I might no longer have Gibbs as my RB2 in the class.
Wow.
And I haven't said it definitively yet because literally the scores are 75.15 and 75.15. They have literally come out to an identical number. I love Spears. I tweeted out before the Senior Bowl, like, this is officially a Spears fan account now. Like, watching his tape is truly a joy. Yeah. Like, it is truly a joy. Rich mentioned it. I love seeing guys that step up in big situations. When because for the most part, Spears is playing lower competition. Now there's some good schools in his conference like Cincinnati and different schools like that. So it's not as bad as some of the others, but it's still not the top tier talent. Mm-hmm. So when they're in a bowl game, first of all, any bowl game, you want to see these guys play because it's usually their biggest game of the year. You add into the fact that it's USC that they're playing. This isn't a scrub school that they're playing that's, in the, Q-tip earwax bowl. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a legitimate bowl game against a legitimate school that, by the way, Tulane ended up winning, which that in of itself is
comeback.
Fascinating. But he had his best showing in his biggest game.
Q-tip. I still stuck on the earwax bowl. I'm sorry.
He did have the only thing that he did do in that game was he had a fumble in that game.
He did have a fumble in that game.
Only one. He's only had 2 career fumbles, and that was one of the games he had one.
Now, when we're talking about elusive, he is one of the most elusive players I've ever watched. His ability to make guys miss in the open field is, it's incredible. It's truly incredible to watch him in the open field.
Great lateral agility, stop, start, right?
Oh, on an absolute dime. Mm-hmm. I know you guys were talking before that you didn't love his physicality, and I get that, but I think it's adequate. I think he's able to break arm tackles and things like that.
I'll tell you what, I watched, we were talking about this before all the show, and you guys told me, hey, did you watch a USC game? And I hadn't watched a USC game. Mm-hmm. I just hadn't got around to it. Plus, it was the only game that wasn't all 22, so I kind of put it aside.
Don't prioritize that one as much.
Right. Yeah. And then I watched it in between shows, and I think that was obviously his last game, but I think that was his best game kind of between the tackles and kind of showing some of that stuff as well that maybe I didn't see in some of the other stuff. And to be fair, my evaluation process, I think, was a little bit different than your guys'. I didn't dig in. I didn't know that he was coming off of ACL.
Yeah.
And I started at the very, I front loaded a little bit and then just kind of cherry picked one at the end. So, most of the tape that I watched was probably him working himself back into shape because
his second half of the year was significantly better. Not that his first half was bad,
right?
But you could tell that he just got
Senior
stronger
Bowl
and stronger and stronger.
Bowl game,
and that's what I was gonna say. The Senior Bowl, all reports were that he looked amazing. So I think I went in thinking I was going to see something other than what I saw. Do you know what I mean? Like similar to what Rich was saying with the Sean Tucker stuff. I was kind of, is he that explosive? You know what I mean? I still have good notes because I did see enough of it that, I do love his stop start. I do love his lateral agility. I wasn't sure about the top end speed. He has good speed and good burst, but I wasn't sure about the top end. And 4.47 is enough. You know what I mean? Like that's good enough for me.
Oh yeah.
And on tape, I think it was good enough, especially towards the end of the season, USC game and all that kind of stuff. So I think as this process starts playing itself out, I think his grade for me, or his spot in my rankings, will go up. I don't really have grades, so I just made that up. His ranking for me will go up as I kind of absorb, especially more of the late season stuff, and kind of put that into perspective that he is coming off an ACL. So I wanted to mention that. So if people get in the film room, they're looking at him, they see that through the correct lens.
Right.
The early season stuff, he maybe wasn't all the way back, and try to backload it a little bit, because that's the more recent, the better data.
Yeah, the better sample of what he can do. And I absolutely agree with that. And just, I couldn't get over how, when he is specifically in the open field, how he not only, you could tell, had a plan of attack, like he processed things so quickly. He like
anticipation at the line of scrimmage, and before he gets to the line of scrimmage, he plays with very good vision and anticipation. There's people that approach the line waiting for something to happen. And those are the people that you're like, is he a patient runner, or is he just doesn't have a plan? And then there's guys that approach the line of scrimmage with a plan. You know what I mean? They
and a plan B.
Yeah, exactly. They're out there playing chess. You know what I mean?
He is,
and
it's 100% correct.
And that's what you see out of this guy, and that's exciting to see. It is a good thing. And now more and more we talk about this guy,
you're getting more and more excited.
The more and more excited.
That's what I like to hear.
So,
I haven't said anything yet.
Yeah, I probably should stop.
You keep going because you love him.
I do. I love this player, and the ability to, and I don't even know that he would verbalize that he does this, but the ability to be able to get defenders to get their weight on the wrong foot, and I remember as a defensive player, like that's so frustrating when I shift my weight and I'm prepared for contact and he made me look stupid.
Dude, he did it so many times where like, oh, he's tackled. And all of a sudden, whoop, 15, 20 more yards. So many, often. He almost never got tackled by the first guy. Remember that stat I was talking about earlier, that I was originally looking for this guy, but McBride had amazing numbers there. He had the most yards on poorly blocked plays.
That doesn't surprise me.
The most yards out of anybody in this class.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it, like, you'd be like, I didn't look at that way of like, I didn't look at it that way. You look at it like, getting the defenders on the wrong foot. I just look at it as like, oh, wow, look what he did there.
Yeah.
He did there. He stopped. Like, the defender was almost on top of him, but like,
instead of getting on the shoulders,
like he had his nose in his butt cheeks instead, and got a little whiff, a little toot ka-choo. Listen, man, I came away extremely impressed with this tape. Because to be fair, all I really knew about Tyjae Spears going into this thing was like, oh, this was a really good Senior Bowl kid. Like, he had a really good Senior Bowl, came away. I watched all that stuff. Like, wow, that looked really good. At the time, after watching it, I was on this podcast like, oh, imagine if Tyjae Spears goes to the Dolphins. That's I literally tweet out like, how high up my rankings would he go? I said that. So this is the first time I got to dive deep in his tape. And I liked this tape so much that when I got done with this whole process, I went back and watched his tape again. And when Garrett got here to do the podcast, I was watching Tyjae Spears tape again. Garrett nailed a lot of it on the head, man. This guy, his cuts, his changes of directions, he does it so smooth and elegantly. He averaged 7 yards per carry last year and 4 yards after contact. And he's really good. And there's he's an all-around running back. Like, he's really good in pass protection. He only allowed 1 sack his entire career. Runs strong, has good contact balance, real explosive. His feet are really good. Like, he's always moving his feet. They're always moving forward. His vision's top notch. He's very good in the passing game. If you watch that tape versus USC, which I thought was his best game that we have in the film room on tape, he does fumble in that game. But like, if you look at his career, he only has 2 career fumbles. My only cons on him are, I didn't love him in between the tackles. Like, that's not his strong suit. And I thought his overall speed, it's adequate. It's just, but it's not nothing that's like, I'm going to write like, oh, his speed's what I love about him. But coming away, there's a ceiling there for like, if Garrett's like, oh, he's my number 2 running back, like, I'm not arguing that cause, because where Jahmyr Gibbs wins is he's so dynamic in the passing game. So from a fantasy football aspect, like, he's Alvin Kamara. And like I've said in this podcast 100 times, in tons of guest shows. I always use him as an example because Alvin Kamara is a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. For Jahmyr Gibbs' case, is Alvin Kamara the best running back in the NFL? No, but he was schemed and used perfectly by Sean Payton in New Orleans, and he's an all-time great fantasy football running back, like all time, 7 years straight of being a running back one. That's all-time greatness. If you get that, that's called Dynasty Gold, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what Jahmyr Gibbs can get you. So that's where you're excited. As a running back wise, like Tyjae Spears is more exciting. Like he gets the juices flowing more. I'm really excited to see where he gets drafted at because this is somebody that could be a difference maker for your dynasty team. When we talk about a strong running back class, this is somebody that slides in there. When I got real excited about Dwayne McBride, like, oh, this is a sneaky guy. Tyjae Spears was almost like that for me, but I knew he had such a good Senior Bowl, and I watched it. So like I was already excited about that. I was like, oh, this is a prospect I'm probably going to like because I like the Senior Bowl so much.
Right.
But watching his tape, this is a guy who could be the number 2 running back in this class. Like, there's a path there. I like him. I would draft him ahead of Zach Charbonnet. I really like Devon A-Chain a lot, too. Like, I really do. So he's an exciting prospect, too. Obviously, Tyjae Spears is a little bit bigger than him. Obviously, he's heavier than him by about 15 pounds or so, 12 pounds. He's a half inch taller than him. But this is a guy I got really excited about. There's not a lot of running backs I go back to watch their tape again and watch a lot of it to make sure that I'm not overly excited with. And I did with them, and I still came away with, like, I don't, like, some, like, when you're talking about, like, him in open field, like, I think you're farther along there than I am. Like, you're like, I've never seen anybody like this. I've seen, like, I thought J.K. Dobbins was unbelievable.
He was fantastic in the open field, too.
I thought DeAndre Swift's,
his dead leg
was one of the best I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of running backs I've seen that are really good in the open field. Like, he didn't get to that level for me for there. Like, he wasn't like, oh, this is an all-time great open field guy. He was not there for me. I'll say that. So we're on a different level there. But I feel like this guy is somebody I want to have a share with. Like, if you're in the back end of the first, this is like a must grab for me. Yeah. And probably even higher, to be honest with you. So
I'm really, really curious to see what his draft capital is going to be.
Me too. Like, really curious. And I hope he doesn't end up in that, like, that running back that ends up like, oh, somebody I really like, and he just ends up in a really bad
crappy
spot.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because me being the guy that's probably lowest on him, I'm going to have to ask some of these tough questions.
Sure.
201 pounds, not a physical guy, right? Where does he land as far as like a team? Like, how do you think a team is going to view him? It's not like he's got crazy pass catching production. I think he can do it. I think he can catch well enough to do it. Where do you guys see him? Like, what kind of role do you say, if you're an NFL GM, he's going to do this for our team, and we got this other guy?
I have a spot for him that I would love.
Go ahead.
That I would love, because I would love it for usage. I would love it for need, and I would love it for creative usability. The LA Rams.
Yeah.
I would really like him there with Sean McVay, because they need weapons there. They're kind of blowing the team up, and I can see them relying on a guy like Tyjae Spears, and they have Cooper Kupp out there to kind of open up the game. I think that'd be a spot for me that really, like, they could build off of that and go off of that. I think he would get the usage, and that would really shoot up the ranks for me.
I mean, I think they're looking for somebody to be an explosive guy. I don't know how much volume they're going to get in that offense. So that's what would
depends on how much they use Cam Akers or not. You know, Cam Akers has been all over the map with them. I
think he's good enough that he would erase Cam Akers. You know what I mean? Like, that's the situation for me, because let's be honest, people too. There's not a ton of opportunities out there for people like these guys to go into that are they're the guys, right? There's not a lot of them.
And he did even weigh even more at the Senior Bowl. He weighed 204 at the Senior Bowl, so he even weighed a little bit. Not that 3 pounds is much of a difference, but you know he's able. We saw all the great things he did there. You know, so he can carry the weight.
The Eagles would be a great spot for him.
Eagles
would
like
be
him
great. And Rashad Penny just for like this year. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Rashad Penny's on that 1 cheap year contract. That'd be a good spot for him.
I heard a comp that I actually like quite a bit. I think he's slightly more elusive than this player, but as far as size, Spears is actually also, based on his numbers, a little bit faster. But there's a lot of comps to Aaron Jones. And I could see that. You know, I could see that being the type of role where he has, because Aaron Jones is not the most physically dominant running back in football, but he's more than adequate between the tackles. He can catch passes, and he does great things in the open field. So
remember, and Aaron Jones was
Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams was drafted ahead of him. When Aaron Jones came out of UTEP, it was Jamal Williams. I literally came out on this podcast. I know I've said it before in the show too. I'm like, everybody's drafted Jamal Williams in the first round that year in the pot. And if you go back and listen to podcasts, it's like, why would you draft Jamal Williams? You could just draft Aaron Jones.
Three rounds later.
3 rounds later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see where it goes. I really do hope it gets a really good opportunity because this is definitely in a tight end premium superflex draft. Like, this is going to be really good value for you because it's going to go those 4 quarterbacks. It's going to go Bijan. It's probably going to go Jahmyr Gibbs in every league. It's going to go Jackson Smith and Jigba. So when you're a playoff team and you get a guy like Tyjae Spears, this is a difference maker. In my eyes. Like, he has the opportunity to be a difference maker. Out of all the prospects that I've watched so far to date, he's the one that I came away the most pleasantly surprised with. The biggest jump, because I did not think I'd have him in that tier. I mean, I guess to be fair, Devin Achane's kind of in the same boat because I didn't know any. To be fair, I didn't know anything about Devin Achane. To be fair, I mean, I guess so he's probably even more so because Spears I knew about the Senior Bowl. Like Achane, I didn't know anything. I just knew he was real fast.
Sure,
right.
But like these two, none of were those two guys I was pleasantly surprised with. But like they skyrocketed up my rankings and in my tiers because it's literally tier 1 Bijan, then Jahmyr Gibbs. But like Bijan's tier is like the moon,
right?
And then
absolutely,
Bijan's the moon. Jahmyr Gibbs is Canada. Tyjae Spears and Devin Achane, and like Charbonnet are like USA, and then Dwayne McBride and all them are like Mexico. So like they're all close. But Bijan's the moon.
I was just wondering how low we were going to go.
Mexico's pretty close. Definitely you live in Texas.
No, I just wanted to hear who was Antarctica. But
that's Chase Brown. Ice cold, baby.
All right.
Actually, no, that's Deuce Vaughn. I'm sorry.